My third winter living on the boat on the river. I've got two diesel heaters. Let's go and have a look at those. Starting with the control panel. This is for the heater that heats up the main cabin and the front cabin. Interesting thing on these ones, can't do it on all of them, is this alpine mode. So when you're at high altitude where the air is thinner, then you've basically got a higher fuel ratio than when you're not at high altitude. So these ones have an alpine mode. You hold these two buttons here and you'll see essentially a blue mountain will come up. If I hold that on there, see that come up there. So what that's doing now is that's slowing the pump down. So although I'm not high altitude, because I leave this generally running 24/7 this time of year, I'd soon have that pump running as slow as it can. And just allow the heat to gradually build up. The second unit, I have this remote, also can be operated via an app on your phone, which I tend to use. And if we go up into the cockpit, I'll show you the units. First unit is under here. This is the diesel heater that heats up the main cabin and the front cabin. When I originally got the boat, there was one of the German brands here, very old one, and I replaced it with this Chinese version. So I essentially just replaced the unit and the loom to put in the new control panel, but kept all the same ducting. It originally used to go off into that air duct over there as well, but since I've got the secondary heater out here, this all feeds the main cabin and the front cabin. The second unit that I fitted this year was this more portable style unit, although that's generally fixed in one place because of the exhaust running out of the stern there. Really good unit, more than enough for this little area. Great when I want to dry my clothes, and yeah, actually seems more fuel efficient than a lot of the older ones. Yeah, been really impressed with it. Had no issues with it whatsoever. Comes with two leads, one for your AC, one for the DC, the 12 volt. So I've currently got that on 12 volt running to my lithium battery, but I also have a second loom underneath there in that cubby hole, and that goes to my inverter. This is the app for the newer unit in the cockpit, connecting via Bluetooth. If you hold this down till all the markers are checked, then tells you that it's the process is starting. Obviously at the bottom there you've got decline and add, that's your temperature, and then there's some settings as well. Really impressed with this. Even if I'm letting my dog off for a little to do her business, let's say, I can be out there with my phone and turn the heater on from out there. Really impressed with it. I tend to use this more than I actually use a remote, because if I'm in bed, my phone's generally next to me, and saves me scrambling about trying to find a remote in the dark. So the main difference fitting it on a boat, certainly when you go out through the hull with the exhaust, is you have to have a special skin fitting. That's to stop the boat from melting or worse. But other than that, just placement of the unit really. Any problems that I've had, before I got the boat I'd converted a van that I was living on for a short time, and I fitted a Chinese diesel heater to that, and there was periods where that would run constantly for 2 weeks without ever turning it off. The only issue I ever had with that was it needed a glow plug replacement, and I've also had that on the one that's been on here for a few years. I think I tend to use the Chinese diesel heaters a lot more frequently than most, in terms of, like the one for this main cabin, if I haven't said already, and the front cabin, that will generally run 24/7. I won't turn that off, have it on the low setting and just let it run and keep that heat at a consistent temperature. Because one of the biggest problems, particularly on a boat, is condensation. And that seems to be worse when you have the heat that's going up and down constantly. When it drops, you tend to get condensation appear. So I like to leave that constantly running, as I say. The other thing is the first year I didn't do that, and I was really struggling with the condensation. I had one of those window vacs, which are an absolute game changer. But when I was cleaning areas of the boat in spring, summertime, some of the mould and damp spores that I found was kind of scary. As I say, this is a 30 by 10'3" boat, and the cabin size is even smaller. So you're in close proximity to those damp spores and that mould. So I always say to people, I tend to keep the heater running constantly to keep the boat healthy, and it's made a huge difference. The other difference is I tend to cook out in the cockpit now as well, apart from my air fryer, and that's great because that's lowered the condensation you're getting from boiling food like potatoes and rice, or boiling the kettle. So those two things have made a huge difference with condensation. I think I said on the video that the newer unit I have in the cockpit is great when I'm doing my laundry and need to dry my clothes after. Even this time of year in the UK, we're in December, and the daytime temperature is generally around 5-6 degrees. As we get into the new year, it will go lower than that, and even that time of year, the lowest setting on that new heater, that will keep it toasty warm out there and will dry all my clothes pretty quick. So apart from the glow plugs, I've not really had any issues with them at all. Yeah, I've got a lot of faith in them. I think, like with any product you buy, every now and then there's a product that somebody will get where people have bought hundreds and not had problems. There'll be one unit that for some reason has got a load of faults in it, or has got a fault in it. I've been lucky I haven't had that happen to me, and I don't actually know of anyone that has either. Why I didn't get one of the German brands, I couldn't afford it. I mean, you're talking what for the basic kit, like the first one that I fitted, I think I'd have to replace that. For the price they are now, I'd probably have to replace that, I don't know, 10, 11 times before it would meet the price of one of the German brands. I appreciate why people do want to do it. They just feel that they're getting a product that's been about a lot longer. They want to stick with the original brands, the original manufacturers. But for those that are willing to take that chance in getting a cheaper version, my personal opinion is that they're great value for money, really economical. And you can, if you know what you're doing, you can strip them down yourselves as well, give them a clean out, replace parts that are needed. I've seen people that have replaced the bearings in them. I think it's like a £1.50 bearing that you can replace. So yeah, other than the glow plug issues, I haven't had any other problems with them. So obviously the portable one is I haven't had that a year yet, so I could get problems with that, but they're essentially the same thing. The other thing I'll add is you can get 2 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt and 8 kilowatt ones. I honestly, my opinion is they are the same unit. If there are any differences in it, it's going to be the settings, or maybe even the fuel pump, something like that. But I honestly think, so the new one, the portable one, is supposed to be 8 kilowatt. The one under the floorboards is 5 kilowatt. But I don't think there is a difference in terms of the unit itself. Again, that's my opinion. I have seen some videos that seem to second that on YouTube, people doing tests and whatnot. But either way, for this size boat, having those 2 heaters on there is more than adequate. First year I was on, my first winter when I was on the river, I think it got down to -6, and I'm going to be even warmer this year with the second heater. But it's only when I get into the real depths of winter that I have to put the one in the main cabin up at its max setting. But say this time of year, when the evenings are getting down to kind of 0, just having it ticking away all night on number 1 on alpine mode is enough. So yep, as far as I'm concerned, great product, well worth the money. Cheers.